Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman of the Football History Dude podcast, and I'm stopping by this show real quick to tell you about a couple of cool giveaways that we have going on here at the network. Both are autograph books covering various topics of the NFL. The first is The Point After, How One Resilient Kicker Learned There Is More to Life Than the NFL by ex-NFL kicker Sean Conley. It goes over his unique experience as a walk-on kicker at the University of Pitt after never playing high school football. And then it gets into some of his time playing for NFL teams and so much more beyond the gridiron. The other is from author Kevin Bryant. His book is titled Spies on the Sidelines, The High-Stakes World of NFL Espionage. This book started as a curiosity, kind of a passion project to understand everything revolving around, well, Spygate. But this put Kevin down a rabbit hole learning about all sorts of espionage that has occurred throughout the history of the NFL. Both permissible and often the illicit techniques of gathering intel to try to impact the outcome of the game. To sign up for your chance to win an autographed copy of one of these books, all you gotta do is head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways and sign up. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways. Again, check out all the other podcasts that we have in the Sports History Network as well. But now, back to your regularly scheduled journey to the sports history timeline.
A stick measurement has been called. It's the stick of Marty McSorley.
Welcome to Marty's Illegal Stick, a hockey history podcast with your host, Scott Kinville. Let's hop on that Zamboni Time Machine and go back in time to look at hockey's glorious history.
And what's going on, hockey fans, and welcome to another brand new episode of Marty's Illegal Stick, a hockey history podcast here on the Sports History Network. We're recording on Wednesday, July 21st, 2022, and I got to tell you, we're in upstate New York and we're sweltering. We're dying. Oh my God, it's hot here. It really is. But you know what? It's nice and cool in here. Dave, you got the studio set. It's like an ice skating rink in here.
Yeah, sure. And it's blowing on my arm here, and I'm dying. I'm freezing to death. Anyway, yeah.
What?
It's cold. I'm cold.
Oh boy, I tell you.
I like that heat out there. That's why I got the University of Texas shirt on.
Yeah, well, we're not going outside to record. You can get that idea right out of your head.
Okay, all right.
Well, if you're not watching on YouTube, that voice that you hear is, of course, the producer, the sidekick, the young Jedi around here of hockey knowledge, Mr. Dave the Save Warner. What's going on?
Not much.
No?
Yeah, no, not a thing.
No? Good. That's good.
I'm real short on, blues knowledge, so this ought to be good.
That's okay, because you know what? I'm going to explain what we're going to do today,
Okay.
And I've got a St. Louis Blues expert here today.
I hope so.
So this is going to be awesome. So we are going to start a new segment here at Marty's Legal Stick, a hockey history podcast, that we're going to do on occasion. It's called The Best of the Best. So what we're going to do is we're going to take teams from the past or present teams that have got long histories, and we are going to make basically the best of those teams. And how it's going to work is this. We're going to create a first team. This week we're going to do the St. Louis Blues. A first team Blues All-Star, or first team Blues All-Star team, a second team all-time Blues All-Star team, and we're going to have honorable mentions. Now there's a little caveat with this though. That particular Blue, or whoever it is we do for this segment, had to have spent at least 3 seasons with the team. We don't want to. I'm invoking what I'm going to call the Wayne Gretzky rule here. Because as great as Wayne Gretzky is, all right, Wayne Gretzky only played realistically like a half a season with the Blues. So I don't when I hear Wayne Gretzky, it doesn't scream St. Louis Blues to me. So at least 3 seasons with the Blues, or any other team for that matter. So to help us out with this, I have a proverbial St. Louis Blues expert with us. He is the host of the Blue Note Fan Report. I'll spit it out in just a second.
Say that 3 times.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Coming to us from the beautiful islands of Hawaii, it is Mr. Guy Bensing. What's going on, Guy?
Well, hello. Thank you for having me today, Scott.
Thank you for coming on. It's 3 o'clock here, so it's about 9 o'clock where you're at in the morning. You had to
9 a.m. Aloha.
Man, oh man.
How do I get that gig?
Yeah, right? I hope we didn't get you out of bed too soon. That's So,
you know, I would, as much as everyone thinks it's so great being that I live in Hawaii, I would much rather live in St. Louis and be in the center of Blues world. in a heartbeat. And I think, Scott, I think you know that.
I've got that impression from you from the couple of times I've been on your show and talking with you. So let me ask you a question. How is it being a hockey fan out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean?
It's tough at times. So, I mean, do you mind a little background on me first?
Absolutely not. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in St. Louis in a suburb, about 25 miles from downtown, but I ended up going to high school downtown. Mm-hmm. I went to a naval high school. We were the only full-time NJ ROTC in the country, second largest naval academy to the Naval Academy. And I ended up joining the Navy in 1987. I served from 1987 to 2007. And with that, my last duty station was here in Hawaii. And as I was getting ready to retire, looking for jobs, we were looking, my family kind of wanted to go to the West Coast, even though I didn't. Something popped up here in Hawaii. We stayed, and I kind of grew roots that I'm trying to chop up. So that's how a blues fan ends up in Hawaii.
Well, that's an interesting story for sure. So, are there any hockey rinks out there in Hawaii?
Yeah, actually we do. Well, we have an indoor roller rink, mm-hmm. right? Arena with two rinks, and they play regularly. We have a hockey rink here on Oahu. However, it's being refurbed right now. COVID kind of shut it down, and I don't know where they're at in the refurbishment. I mean, I want to get back out and start playing. I am, and I don't know if you can see this jersey here. I don't know if you know what the Warrior program is.
I've heard of it.
Right. The Hockey Warrior program from USA Hockey is a program for disabled vets that are not physically, well, they're listed as disabled, 10% disabled, mm-hmm. but it's not sled hockey like everyone thinks. These guys can skate and do the regular things. I'm an honorary member of them. Okay. Because of the show, and they know that if I was in St. Louis, I'd be skating every day. In fact, last year, this time I broke my wrist in my second practice, so my Warrior career lasted all in 90 minutes.
Not quite as long as Wayne Gretzky stayed in St. Louis, then. Is that what you're saying?
Somewhat, but yeah, I know your caveat, and I get it, but he's still going to be on my honorable mention list because he did more in that cup of coffee than some players did in years.
Yeah, right? I mean, I guess you could say that.
And we can talk about this a little bit. You have to understand where hockey was in St. Louis. There was in 1983, St. Louis doesn't even show up to the draft. They don't even have an owner. Their owner sold the team to Saskatchewan.
Right.
And the NHL said no, so the owner handed the keys to the arena and the offices to the NHL and says, "Here you go." Right? So hockey in St. Louis has been somewhat tumultuous at times, and then you have in '88, you have this '88, '89 when Brett Hull comes along, he starts to bring this je ne sais quoi, this quality, this Midwestern feel to what hockey can be. And then, in the 95 season, 96, you get Wayne Gretzky leaving L.A. to come to St. Louis, and partially because his wife is from that area. In fact, his wife lived about 4 miles from where I grew up.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
In the same area. So, when he got there, the fans that you have now, a lot of the fans that you have now are because of Gretzky's short stint. That's why, for me, he'll get that honorable mention.
Well, since it's an honorable mention, I guess we can waive the caveat. I mean, what the heck? They waived the waiting period for him to get into the Hall of Fame, so I suppose I could bend a little bit too. Yeah.
Right. Well, see, my list. So I thought a lot about this, and I have a website, and I don't write on it as much as I should, but it's called the St. Louis Fan Report, stlfanreport.com, and I wrote an article on there, and I called it. Hold on a second. I pulled it up here to have it available. What makes a blue? My top 10 blues of all time, and what makes a blue? It's not just stats to me, right? There's other things involved. There's things that, what bleeding blue really means, mm-hmm. right? And I mentioned in the article, I say Bobby Plager's been with the organization as a player, coach, and ambassador since the beginning. should he be left off the list because he wasn't a great player? You know, so it's not just what they did on the ice that matters. It's what they did on and off the ice and what they mean to the Blue Note.
Right.
So my list is not going to be, I think my list, and I worked on it last night and today and, you know, really went around, and I'm not great at numbers, so I've got them all pulled up on me. My list isn't going to be the list that you think it is, I think.
And that's what's going to make this so interesting, right? Because, I mean, as you can see by my shirt, I'm actually an LA Kings fan. Yeah. He's a Buffalo Sabres fan. So, but I can't make too much fun because I'm telling you, Buffalo's going to be dynamite in a couple of years.
I know. I think they are too. I'm absolutely with you on that one, bud.
But still, he's learning, guys. So we just bear with him for a second.
Quit making excuses.
Yeah, right. But no, that's you know what, and that's what I kind of had in mind too when I was coming up with the different, you know, caveats. Is that, you know, there's got to be an impact on the organization as well. And you're right in the fact that impact isn't always on the stat sheet. It's everywhere. It's off the ice. It's in the front office. It's everywhere. So I guess
I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'm sorry. I have a bad habit of jumping out.
No, you're good.
I don't wait for things. When something pops into my mind, I spit it out.
I'm the same way because I'll forget it.
My number 10 Blue was the front office.
Hey, there you go.
Right? Because what they have done over the years and the different ownerships and to maintain that fan base and to have that love of the Note, the Blues fans travel well. They travel very, very well. You're not going to go to a game that the Blues are playing and see a smattering of Blues fans. You're going to see a large contingent of Blues fans. They're one of the best traveling teams in the league.
Right. Exactly. So,
and you attribute that to the front office and what they've done to make sure that people understood what the Note meant.
Right. Exactly. So before we get into our list, now these Blues teams that we're going to make up have to have a place to play. So I'm going to ask you, the arena or the Scott Trade Center?
Oh, God.
I'm going with the arena just because I'm old school.
Well, see, I love the arena, right? I do, but I also love Scott Trade. I like the openness. I like the feel of it. But if you want, you're talking all time. Yes, it's got to be the arena. There was, and this was, I remember this when ESPN first started taking over. I want to say this was 92 or 93 with the arena. They had, this was when the Wave was really, really big. Mm-hmm. Right. So late 80s, early 90s, they had taken an outline of the arena. They had a camera up and they had an outline of the arena. And when the Wave was going, they split the camera and you could see the building shifting around the line. Wow. Right? that building, you could feel that building move.
Oh yeah.
Right? It was something special. Now, I actually, as a Blues fan, I got to do something that you know Windy City. You've met Windy City from Windy City Hockey, Nick. He's so jealous of me of this. I was at the very last Blackhawks game at Chicago Stadium.
Ooh, the Madhouse on Madison.
The 1-0 loss to Toronto in Game 7. I was at that game.
No kidding.
Yep, I had just come back from. I was stationed in Japan. I had gotten stationed up in a naval base in Illinois in Great Lakes, which is about 50 miles north of Chicago, outside of the city in the Waukegan kind of area. And I had ended up putting my name in a drawing and had won the right to purchase tickets to that game. So it was the first hockey game I'd really gone to in years.
Wow.
But it didn't matter to me. It was a hockey game, you know?
Right. And I got to be honest, I mean, I've never been to the arena. I've never been to the Scott Trade Center. But anybody who's been listening to the show for a while is going to go, oh, here we go again. We're going to go off on that tangent. But I'm telling you, those old buildings, there's just something so much more special about them than just about anything you see nowadays. I mean, don't get me wrong.
They have
modern day arenas are beautiful, and you've got every amenity you could want and the creature comforts, and it's great. And it's a great experience. But to me, I mean, and again, maybe it's just because I'm so old school, but nothing beats the feeling of those old arenas.
They've done a very good job at Scott Trade to have that arena feel to it.
Good.
It does have a little bit of the arena feel. The way that they've set the seats, you know, some of those seats, especially in the upper levels, those seats have almost that same tilt.
right,
that the arena had. So it's got some of that same. And I remember the Checker Dome. So
yeah, right. There you go. There you go. All right.
It's called the Checker Dome. So I've been around a while.
Well, now that we've got a place to play, I say we start putting these teams together. Dave, I don't know if you have a drum roll in that magical bank of sounds
you
got.
You want a big drum roll?
Sure, give us a drum roll.
We got one somewhere.
All right. So let's go with our honorable mentions first. We're going to start off at the bottom and work our way up. And
okay.
I didn't ask you this earlier, and I probably should have. But can you give me an honorable mention coach for this team?
Ooh, that's tough. I see.
If you can't, like I said, I throw a curveball at you a little bit. I should have said something earlier, and I didn't.
Yeah, I think for coach, I'm gonna go with the current coach, Craig Berube. I think he'll be my honorable mention. He's only been there 3 years, 4 years, but he has a huge winning record. He doesn't have a winning record in the playoffs, but he's getting there. He has the ability to be that guy, that coach, very, very soon. And he also has the ability, and he did something that no other coach has done. He brought the cup.
Lifted the Stanley Cup.
So I give him that.
Exactly.
Right? Yep.
Exactly. You know what? He was right there for me too. And I also included, because I couldn't decide, Brian Sutter.
No, Sutter is a little higher for me. So
Okay. Well, like I said, you know much more about the Blues than I do, so I'll take your word for it. All right, guys. So on our honorable mention list, who is your goalie?
Oh, see, now that's a tough one. And we were talking about this last night on my show after everybody popped off. And I think, I gave a lot of thought to this, and I got to go with Mike Liut.
Okay.
Right? Mike Liut, and he holds the record for most wins. Mm-hmm. I think that number is 151. I'm trying to pull it up here to make sure, because I don't remember. My time in the service is kind of messed with my head a little bit. So he's 151 wins, and Jake Allen would have beat it if they wouldn't have traded him, but they traded him. I did an interview with Mike Liut, and you could just tell that what St. Louis meant to him. Right. And it was important. Liut played from 79 to 85, 347 games, 358 goals against average, 882 save percentage. Not the greatest of numbers, but you know what? That's not what's important. The number that matters, and I talked to somebody else that's on my list, and I won't mention their name yet. Right? What matters is the W.
That's right.
And we'll talk about that person here in a little bit, I think.
Okay. Well, I'll give you mine, and I had a really hard time deciding between, believe it or not, Jake Allen and Greg Millen. Just as I remember Greg Millen from when I was a kid, and he was a pretty darn good goalie. But I had to go with Jake Allen. Jake Allen's my honorable mention for the St. Louis.
I can see that. I can see that. The reason that I, as a Blues fan, now look, I love Jake Allen, but I don't want Blues fans to shoot me in the head, because Blues fans did not like Jake Allen. Right? That was a split down. You were either on Jake Allen's side or you weren't.
Yeah.
Plain and simple, no in between. So for me, I had to put in my fan hat on a little bit and go, okay, if I say this, what are my fans going to think? I'm trying to gain fans, not get shot in the head. So I had to be a little weak on Jake Allen there.
That's okay. Well, listen, I can get away with that because I'm an outsider. So it's all good. All right. So, Guy, honorable mention, give me 2 defensemen.
Oh, now see, this is a tough one, because I didn't set my honorable mention completely up yet, right? I was kind of just looking differently. One of my honorable mentions comes a little different. And the reason I say this, and I want to make sure I pull this up the right way, give me just a second. Yeah. One of my honorable mentions isn't for what he did on the ice, but what he's done for the organization.
Okay.
And that's Bruce Affleck. Bruce Affleck was my number 9 Blue. And it's not, okay, he played with the organization from 74 to 79, 274 games, 79 points, but that's not what's important. He's been in the organization, and he was a broadcaster. He was a general manager. He was a director of ticket sales. Right now, he's the president of the Alumni Association. There's only one person that's ever bled blue more than Bruce Affleck. And that's why I will sit there and make Bruce Affleck one of my honorable mentions. Again, I said it's not always about what they did on the ice.
Right.
It's what they mean to the organization. And when you mention him, he means a lot to the organization.
Fair enough. Fair enough. How about a second one?
My second one, this is a current one, and I wanted to mix up the past with the present.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right? Oh, well, semi-current. My second one's Jay Bouwmeester.
Oh, interesting choice. Interesting.
Jay Bouwmeester played for the Blues from 2012 to 2020, 480 games, 172 points, but he brought a quality to the Blues that they needed at the right time. He was hurt in the 17 and 18 season, but in the 15-16, when the Blues went to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in 15 years, he brought that leadership, that knowledge. You could see that what he was trying to do, and you can see how that bled into the team going into 19. And when he was healthy, this team changed. Everyone gives Bennington all the credit in the world. I don't, because I think Bouwmeester had a lot to do with that change as his health got better.
There you go. That's really interesting, because he's one guy that kind of flies under the radar. He really is. That he's always been one of those guys who just never got enough credit for everything he was able to bring. So that's really interesting. I'll give you mine. You already mentioned him once, Bobby Plager on my defense, and I've also got Rob Ramage. Just because, again, I remember him as a kid. He was a decent player, of course, and I'm no Blues expert, but like I said, Rob Ramage, to me, he had a solid career. And he's not going to be on an all-time list, of course, first or second.
No, not a bad pick at all. In fact, Rob Ramage is currently the coach of the Blues Warriors.
There you go. See?
Yeah, and I've tried to get him on the show, but he straight up looked at me, and I almost had a tear in my eye when he said this. He looked at me and says, "I don't do media, damn it."
Oh, okay then.
Yeah, he called me media.
Hey.
He called me media. He called me legitimate media. I almost had a tear in my eye.
You made it.
He didn't use the word legitimate. He just said media.
Yeah, well,
there's a difference.
That's okay. Take what you can get, right?
I'll take it.
Yeah, really.
Oh, boy. That's awesome. All right, moving right along. Our honorable mention, left wing for the St. Louis Blues.
Now, see, this was a tough one for me. The Blues, when it comes to left wingers, we just don't have this high quality of left wingers. And I've looked. I was looking at different things, and really, I got to go, and I struggled to find two left wingers. I really did. To find two solid left wingers on this team. And I think for me to go with honorable mention, I have two. I'm going to go with first Brendan Shanahan, right? 91 to 95, 306 points, but he left under bad circumstances. Yeah. My other one is going to be off the charts a little bit, is Lubas Barteko.
Ooh.
Now, Lubas didn't have a great, he's not one of those, but he was there with Dimitra, and he helped create that Slovak line that was so effective and that really did usher in an era of, he was there when they were losing that grip, and he helped maintain that grip a bit. So Barteko kind of slips in there for me, and I know I'm probably breaking your rules a little bit.
No, that's all good.
Having two of them, but
that's all right.
For me, Barteko just kind of breaks that mold a little bit.
Very good. Very good. I like it. I like when we think outside the box around here. I love it. So for my left wing, I actually went old school on this one, and I went with Red Berenson.
With who?
Red Berenson.
Oh, I thought Red played more center than left.
Well, they got him listed, and again, I'm not a Blues expert, but they have him listed as a left wing. So, and
let me double check, because I was pretty sure that he played more center than left wing. I mean, I had to leave a center off that off this list that really kind of drove me nuts.
But you could include him if you want.
Yeah, I have him listed. I have him listed as a center, but
Okay.
no, I could see Burns. But again, centers could play either
Right,
or,
and that's such a great area. So, all right. Well, speaking of centers, who's your center?
Say again.
Who's your honorable mention center?
You know, I was jumping with this, and I actually just changed my mind. My honorable mention center has got to be, you know, the guy that signed my cast and asked me if I wanted my cast signed, Gary Unger.
Okay, very interesting. That's
Right?
a real good choice.
Well, Unger is one of those unsung heroes that should be in the Hall of Fame and isn't.
Right.
And also with Unger, there's some of this feeling of I don't know what the word is. He left the Blues in a knot with not. There were some legal ramifications of why he left the Blues. But what he's done for the team and for the NHL afterwards, and who he was, you know, the blonde hair and that.
Right.
Last year, I did and this is why Unger comes on my list, right? And it's not just the numbers. I did a live at a rally house in St. Louis, a new open rally house. Unger and Mike Zook joined me. Very good. Both of them are good friends of mine now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this guy that hears about it, comes out, sees that Unger's there. And just before we go online, he asks, well, are these guys going to sign autographs? And Unger says, oh, yeah, certainly. All right. So we're doing the show. The guy leaves, comes home, brings his 86-year-old World War II veteran father to meet Unger. And Unger is like in awe of this guy being a vet. Me being a vet also, I
Sure.
have that feeling, you know. And the guy was from the Navy, was a Navy vet also. And they're talking, and now this guy has this bank, one of those promotional things. Unger signs it, and he's talking to the guy. The guy's got tears in his eyes. An 86-year-old man has tears in his eyes meeting Gary Unger.
That's awesome.
That says everything to me.
That is awesome. That really is. Great choice. Great choice. I actually went with Pavel Demitra.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. All right. Look, again, I'm not a blues expert, so bear with me, right?
No, because I'm going to break rules here. So
Okay.
we'll kind of go with that.
Okay.
The Demitra. Look, I'll tell a quick story with this before we get there. I've been in Hawaii for a while, and when I got to Hawaii in 2004, you could not be connected to the NHL at all. There was the internet wasn't that strong yet. There was no VIOP. All of that stuff really wasn't set in yet, so you couldn't watch the games or any of that. And you don't get hockey here. The ESPN, at the time it was the games would come on 2 PM. I'm at work, things like that. And then the Blues. This was when the Blues, and that was the strike season.
Right.
So in 2005, the Blues are going down. But I remember Demitra. I remember following Demitra when I was in Japan. And when he passed in that plane wreck, I was working second shift. And I went into work at 2:30 that afternoon. And people could just tell something wasn't right with me.
Right.
And I told them, I can't explain it to you. Nobody here is going to understand it. And I finally had someone, one of my bosses came in and said, what's going on? And when I explained it to him, he just kind of looked at me and says, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. He says, if you can't stick around tonight, that's fine. But, please try and stick around. But I understand that.
Yeah.
Here's a guy I'd never met.
Sure.
But the sudden death of him really just stuck a dagger in my heart.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, I thought you were going to be upset because I didn't put him higher on the list. I was like, uh-oh. That's why I'm not. So wait a second.
Yeah.
But anyways, how about give me your right wing?
Right wing again. See, Blues have had some really, really good right wings, and I jumped around on this, and I'm still like moving around. There's still different right wingers that pop into my head. I could probably name a bunch of them. Give me just a quick second to look at this. There was one that kind of jumped into my head. And now I can't remember who it was. Frank St. Marcelli.
Wow.
Right? He played for the Blues from the beginning, 67 to 73, 257 points. And this was in a period when goal scoring wasn't as high as it was. And this is a guy that also went to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times. Was part of that beginning that really helped make the Blues. And it's a name that's not going to pop on everybody's list. But I'm looking for the guys, not just what they did on the ice, but what they did off the ice. And off the ice, he's one of those guys that helped ingrain what it meant to wear the blue note to future generations.
Excellent. Very good. Yeah, you're right. And that's, you know what, it's a shame too that guys like that, sometimes they get forgotten.
Yeah.
As time goes on and generations come and go, and it's a shame, but you know what? You remembered it, and that's the important thing right there. Yeah. I went with David Backes. I know he was both the center and a right wing. So again, it's kind of hard to differentiate sometimes, but just for what David Backes did for the organization alone is. Yeah,
no, he did. He was the captain for a while, and I get that. And like I said, I was trying to take this list that went both ways. I wanted a list that touched the current generation and the previous generations. I wanted to make sure that I was looking at a list that everyone could look at and go, okay, that means something to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so our honorable mention team is done. We are moving on to the second team, the second all-star blue team, if you will. And again, I know I threw a curveball here at you, but give me a coach that's going to coach this team.
Okay, well, for coach of the second, this one kind of bounces for me. This is where I'm breaking the rules. I have two that kind of fit into this, right? Okay. Scotty Bowman, and Brian Sutter.
Okay.
Bowman coached the first 3 years, took this team to the Stanley Cup Finals, and then had a falling out and left and went on to be the greatness that he was elsewhere. But he cemented the Blues into St. Louis. They don't do that. They don't win those 3 Stanley Cups. I don't know if they're still here in '83. Right?
Go to the finals, yeah, exactly.
Not win them, but go to them. I'm sorry. Right. If they don't make those 3 Stanley Cup Finals, I don't know if they're here in '83. That helped establish what this team could be. And then you have Sutter. And Sutter, his coaching career, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's just player, coach. I mean, his numbers in the rafters. He did it all, and he did it in a way he made his players better. There's a great story about Sutter, but I don't want to tell it yet. I want to tell it a little bit later.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, he won the Jack Adams Award, too.
Yes, he did win a Jack Adams.
I think it was 81-82, I want to say. Or no, it was a little bit later than that, I'm sorry.
A little bit later than that, I want to say. It was 89.
Yes, thank you. He was still playing, right. All right, I went with Ken Hitchcock. Ken Hitchcock. It's just I can't talk today.
I can see that. I'm not a big Hitchcock guy.
Okay.
Right? I'm not a big Hitchcock guy. I like what he did. I know he was there for a long time, but he had all these issues in the playoffs, and then the way he left, to me, hurt more. I didn't like when Yo came in as the coach in waiting. I had talked about, I wasn't doing my show yet, but I told friends, this concerns me. This coach in waiting that never goes well.
Right.
Because you get in the middle of the season and the players start, who do I follow? Coach or the new coach? And that's what happened in that season. So that's why Hitchcock has a little bit of a stigma for me.
Fair enough. Like I said, you would know much better than I would. So I'm basically going to look at the numbers and go by what I remember. And like I said, you've lived right through it. So, all right, give me the goalie of your second All-Star Blue team.
Numbers don't mean nothing. It's all about the W. Brant Fuhr.
That's a great choice.
Brant Fuhr, I had him on my show.
Really?
And he brings up, yes, he was the first, well, he wasn't the first player. He was the first major player, and he's the only Hall of Famer I've ever interviewed. But I had him on my show, and I asked him about, and he said, I got told, Gretzky told me this. I don't care how many stops you make, just make the one that counts. And that's what he believed.
Makes sense.
And Grant Fuhr didn't have the greatest life growing up, right? He had a troubled childhood.
He did.
But he rose above that. He always rose above it. Whatever you gave him, he rose above it. And he had a connection to Gretzky that still exists today. It was because of Gretzky that he was on the Blues. Gretzky being with the Blues really did help elevate his game more. And again, this is why Gretzky is on my, honorable mention team. When we had center, he's like my honorable mention center too.
Sure.
The one I forgot. But that's where it connects to me because of what it did during that period.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Actually,
and you know what? Find me a better series. Find me, and I know you'll have trouble. Find me a better series, and I think I got the year right. The 1996 second round of the playoffs
against Detroit,
of the Western Conference playoffs between St. Louis and Detroit. Find me a better series. I don't think you can.
And it's too bad Fuhrer wasn't in between the pipes for that Game 7.
Say again?
It's too bad Fuhrer wasn't between the pipes for that Game 7.
Oh, I know, but
I don't want to get you going again. I don't want to see your blood pressure go through the roof. So we've talked about this before, and it doesn't get pretty. Trust me.
Yeah.
So for me, I went with Curtis Joseph.
Fair. Good pick.
It's
not gonna go against that. It's a good pick. Yeah, he could have been my honorable mention. Right? But I think Liut for me. Liut just has the better feeling. When you say Curtis Joseph, most people will go, "Oh, he was a Toronto Maple Leaf."
Yeah,
they associate him.
You're right, but I think
with the Maple Leafs.
I think he played 7 seasons in St. Louis or something like that, didn't he? He was 7 or 8. He was there for a while.
Yeah, he played for a while. I mean, I remember watching him. I loved watching him.
Right. And honestly, I'm going to tell you something right now. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that they got to get him in. I truly believe that. All right. So how about our honorable mention defenseman? Our second team defenseman.
Okay, second team defenseman. I'll go with this one first. Barclay Plager.
Okay.
Right? One of the originals with that team until the day he passed, from cancer in 86. What was definitely the guy. And he, along with his D partner, and when we get there, gave you what it was to. They understood very, very quickly what it meant to wear that note and how important it was. And the note, you ask most people, the note will come in as one of the top 5 logos in the league. Mm-hmm. Because it's so clean, it's so classic, and when you see it, you know what it is.
Absolutely. And who's your second one?
His brother, Bobby.
There you go.
Right? And look, I know Bobby didn't have the numbers. Bobby is my number one Blue of all time.
Oh, impact alone.
It has nothing to do with what he did on the ice. Well, while he was on the ice, he was great. You go back, you look at the fight in Philadelphia, you look at the stories that were told about him. When he was the coach of the Peoria Rivermen, he has a practice, and I've had Tony Twist tell me about this, and I've others tell me about this. Has a practice. He said no one could go out. Everyone was supposed to be in at a certain time, and about half the team went out that night. Got in really late, and I don't remember what happened at practice or whatever it was, but he goes at the beginning of the practice, he asks everybody that was out to this point who step forward. So some step forward, and they makes them do suicides. And he does this, and he goes, well, who was in before curfew? And most of the French Canadians were, right? That's just kind of how they were. So they kind of all raised their hands, and Bobby takes it. Everybody else and says, you guys go home. Turns around, looks at the guys and says, you never leave your teammates. Now go practice.
Wow. There you go.
That's who Bobby was.
There you go.
This is the jersey that that Mike Hoffman wore the night that they honored Plager after he passed.
That is awesome.
This is a practice worn, game worn, however you want to look at it, jersey. But they just, that's what he meant. I don't have. This is the only one of those I have because they're so expensive.
Sure.
When this were out I was getting one. I didn't care. I had a budget and I was going to get one. I got lucky, and because it was right around the trade time, and Hoffman's name hadn't skyrocketed yet, so I got Hoffman's at a good point. I just wish he was still with the Blues. But that's what Bobby meant to the Blues, and that's why Bobby is one of my all-time Blues in the D.
Awesome. Very awesome. Well, I'll give you mine. So my second team Blues defense, And I know that he's not there anymore, but to me, it's Alex Pietrangelo. And I know, like I said, he left to go to Vegas, chase the money, whatever, it is what it is. But he was the captain when they won the Stanley Cup. And, for a while, he was Mr. Blues, as far as, like, from an outsider point of view, like mine is.
Yeah, no,
so,
fair enough.
And my second, you're probably going to laugh at this, but you got to remember, I'm a child of the 80s, right?
Okay.
I grew up and fell in love with the game in the 80s, and I knew the game inside and out of just about every team. And I always liked this guy, Jeff Brown. Loved the huge shot from the point, the power play specialist that he was, right? I probably should have been in an honorable mention, but I'm like, I said, you know what? I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to see what guys' reaction is.
Jeff Brown was on my alumni team.
Really?
When I broke my wrist, so I was I was his coach.
No kidding.
More or less. Yeah. So I'm working on getting Jeff and his son Logan on the show.
Awesome. Very awesome.
Yeah. So no, that's not a bad pick, and he was one of those that I had to struggle over.
Yeah.
Not putting him on my list.
It was like I said. I was looking. I'm like, nah, man. I got to. Like I said, because he was just one of those Blues I always remembered. So all right. So we got our defense down. How about a left wing?
Oh, easy. Brian Suter.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Brian Suter, and again, just what I talked about, him being the coach and all of that stuff and what he was as a player, his name's in the rafters. He brought it every single night. He never took a shift off. He never took a night off. He never took he didn't take a break when he was taking a break.
Yeah, right.
Okay, right. What I'm saying, when he's on the bench, he's still talking. He was still learning. He paid attention. And he was a student of the game more than anybody else that I can see in a long, long time. And I love what he brought. I don't like the way he left St. Louis, the way they got rid of him, but he's still, he's as much to me. He's one of those guys that cup was as much for them as it was for anybody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I went with Keith Tkachuk. And I know how you feel about his son coming to your team, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But
that kind of, I may have changed my mind a little bit on that.
I mean, it's certainly a possibility, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But his father, Keith, I mean, and again, during the 90s, especially the prototypical power forward, he spent 9 seasons in St. Louis, and he put up 208 goals, 219 assists. So he had a pretty darn good career while he was there.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I'm like, no, you can't go wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
All right. So, on to our center. Who is your second team all-time Blues center?
Okay, I have to slash this one.
Okay.
And because, and I know you're supposed to just the name, but the two guys here on this list, I just can't say that one of them shouldn't be off the list. So my first one is Fedorko.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Fedorko just made the Blues who they were. Right? And you know what? I didn't write the other name down. I just went blank. So if I remember it, I'll bring it. But Bernie's name's in the rafters. He's he's the other Mr. Blue. He's still with the team, all these years later. Right? He's still with the team. He did everything. Actually, I'm sorry. And the other one was Red Berenson.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
That's where Red was for me. These are guys that, Red came just before Bernie, but they passed the torch.
Right.
So to speak. So that's where Berenson, to me, as, that importance. And just, again, the Blues have had some very, very, very good centers.
Absolutely.
If not great centers in their careers. In their history, and it makes it hard when you're doing these lists. But at this point, I think Berenson kind of slips in there, and that's why I kind of slash him, because the way they pass the torch to each other.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. So this is where I went with Gary Unger, and I went with Unger over Dimitra in this spot, just simply because Unger came along at a time when they were coming out of those where they were going to the Stanley Cup Finals right from the start of their existence, right? And where they really needed somebody to kind of be the face of the franchise to keep that going. And for me, anyways, like I said, from an outsider's point of view, it was Gary Unger that was the name that was, at least offensively, that was associated with the Blues. So it was a tough to pick between him and Dimitra, between an honorable mention and a second team All-Star. But that's the reason I went there.
Oh, how hard it was for me to leave Dimitra off the list.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, that's what I'm trying to. I mean, it's just so hard.
It is, and you know what? Too, it's so hard when you're trying to compare players from different eras. It just never seems fair.
But when you come. I come back?
Yeah, you're there. Yeah, you just froze up a little bit.
Okay, I think I froze for a second. Yeah, you're right. It is hard to compare errors. And again, I'm looking at what they mean to the team.
Right.
Right? And someday the Blues are going to put Dimitra's number in the rafters, even if it's just honored, but it needs to be in the rafters.
Right. I totally agree. Totally agree. All right, so now we're getting into that sweet spot for the St. Louis Blues, if you will. Give me the right wing of the second team.
I bet you can guess this one.
I'm thinking I can.
Bet you.
I'm thinking that this is one of the easy ones right here.
You're going to be what?
I think this is going to be one of the easy ones right here.
Tarasenko, baby.
Yeah, I had the same one.
Oh, my goodness. You know what? I living here in Hawaii, I didn't get to see games for a very, very long time. Right? Last game, I saw a game in 2008 when Eric Johnson was still with them. The next time I see a game is 2014, Thanksgiving night, and it's the first time I got to see Tarasenko play. And my eyes lit up. I mean, I was sitting 3 rows off the ice on the blue side, but I'm watching what this guy does, and he scores the overtime game winner, and I'm just thinking, I just saw Brett Hull on the ice. Oh my God, this is the coming of Brett. I'm sorry, Tarasenko doesn't get the credit for what he does. He's an amazing goal scorer. He's becoming a two-way player. He's learning how to do that part of his game, just like Brett Hull does. And all this crap about this trade stuff, I don't believe most of it. And I've talked about that with you on offline and on my show. For me, Tarasenko just easily fits.
Yeah, I don't understand what all this trade talk really boils down to. I mean, I get it. People were nervous about the shoulder, and then there was that whole thing with the doc. But to me, listen, I think he's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that the shoulder's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one question there. So, well, I'm glad we agree on something. This is nice.
Well, no, like I said, my list isn't going to be your standard list.
But, this is why I had you on, though, because I don't want the carbon copy, encyclopedia answer, which I know you will not give. So, So, here we are. We're at the creme de la creme, the first team St. Louis Blues All-Star team. And we're going to start off with who is behind the bench for this team.
Okay, I have to put an asterisk on this. Okay? Asterisk is current situation notwithstanding. It's Coach Q.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
And I know some people want to take the Chicago situation and blanket him in that. And I get it.
Yes.
I have to look at what he meant to the organization when he was there.
Right.
And when he was there, he brought the greatest show on ice to the league. And just like the Rams had the greatest show on turf, before that, we had the greatest show on ice. We had Hall and Oates. We had a coach that understood what those two could do together.
Right.
And we had a coach that could take a lineup and mix it and match it and turn it around and sprinkle pixie dust from, Chris Berman from draft day and turn a lineup that should have been nothing to greatness.
Yeah.
And that is what Quenneville is to me. So I have to asterisk it. Yep. Current situation notwithstanding.
Yes, I can agree with that because, I totally understand why people would feel the way they would. What happened in Chicago was just absolutely horrible. But if you look at the body of work from St. Louis and the record and what he did, he definitely did the job while he was there. There's no doubt about it. Now, for me, if you're going to take Coach Q out of it, it would have been Scotty Bowman just because of the impact that he had on the organization to start to get them going. But, all right, so now we're between the pipes. Who is the best St. Louis Blues goaltender of all time in your eyes?
Mr. Goalie, Glenn Hall.
Glenn Hall.
And
Wow.
I'm sorry, I don't remember if this stat is completely right, but I think he was the first person ever to win the Conn Smythe on a losing team.
I think you're right, actually.
Okay?
I think you're right.
That says something. That says something.
Yeah, it does.
That team that lost to Montreal, the worst they could have been was 12-3.
Yeah.
If they win that series, the worst they could have been is 12-3, and that was Glenn Hall. Glenn Hall just knew how to play goalie, even though he was at St. Louis at the end of his career, and I'm passing up Jacques Plante to not put Jacques Plante on this list, but it's just what Glenn Hall did. Again, that original team, that 1966-67 team, all the way up to 69-70, what they did as a whole, what they did to bring hockey to a region that really didn't have hockey. It just makes it is what it is, and you can't not bring that in because, you know, me, I'm not old enough to remember him playing, barely, but the name just brings reverence.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Right?
The guy's a legend. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
It's Glenn Hall.
Okay, that's fair enough. Now, again, I told you, I grew up in the 80s. I'm a child of the 80s. I love the 80s. I wish I could go back to the 80s. But my all-time goalie has got to be Mike Liut. Just because when I think of goaltenders for the St. Louis Blues, I picture Mike Liut with that long, elongated mask, the number one, right? And it seemed like he was every year he was in St. Louis, he was on the All-Star team. So for me, it's Mike Liut.
And I don't fault that. I really don't. That's excuse me, wrong too. I don't fault that at all. It's not a bad pick. It's just, again, I had to look at different things.
Sure.
And
no, absolutely.
When you think about the second six, right, or second five now, you have to look at how those teams got ingrained where they did. And when you look at the fact that the Oakland Golden Seals never got that.
Right.
Well, one of the reasons Oakland never got that wasn't the fact that they were in Oakland, it's that they never had the guys.
Right. Exactly.
To bring that connection to the people. And to me, that connection of Bobby, of Barclay, of Saint Marseille, of Glenn Hall, Jacques Plante, all of that, brings Red Berenson, brings that connection to what everyone else has learned afterwards.
Sure.
Right? So that's why I had to go with Mr. Goalie.
Not a bad pick at all either, my friend. All right, so I think we're going to agree on this. The top two defensemen in St. Louis Blues history are
McInnes and Pronger.
Yep, that was exactly what I had. And I don't think it's there's no question about that either.
Banners in the rafters,
yeah.
Plaques in the hall.
Well, I mean, say no more. That's kind of...
Right? Plaques in the hall.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Right? You just go with that. And I don't know what else to say. They brought, Pronger's a Hart Trophy recipient.
Yep.
Right? And he won the Selke. You have McInnes, the hardest shot in the league. He would wind up. And it was like the scene from the Mighty Ducks,
Everybody scatters.
Parting of the Red Sea.
Yeah.
If he was taking a one-timer, it was a parting of the Red Sea. Nobody wanted in on that.
No, not at all.
Right?
And could you imagine what he would do with modern sticks today?
Say again?
Could you imagine what he would have done with the modern sticks that like Ovechkin's using today? He could have potentially killed somebody with those.
His sticks didn't just break. They shattered.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a game stopped because a guy's stick blew up so bad that they had to clean the ice?
It's true.
That happened with McInnes more than once. His sticks didn't break. They exploded.
Jeez.
You know, I'll tell you, Dave, I was reading a story the other day, as a matter of fact, speaking of McInnes, and that brutally hard slap shot that he had. So it was in practice, and I forgot what the goalie's name was. But he took a slap shot, and the goalie got hit in the, bad area, right? Yeah. And it shattered his cup. Shattered it. And he had to actually go in for emergency surgery.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that was Brent Johnson.
Was it? I couldn't remember what the goalie's name was. I read about it. Could you imagine that, though?
No, I don't want to imagine.
I think that I got to go look. I got to look it up. I think I want to say that was Brent Johnson.
I think after that, I'd have been going, you know what? I retire. That's it.
I'm done.
I'm going to go find another job. This isn't worth it.
No.
It's been great being in the NHL, but.
Yeah. See ya.
True story. Absolutely true story.
The guy just. He commanded the ice.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
He commanded the ice.
No doubt.
He doesn't get the credit for being a defenseman that he was.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Because
when people talk about best defenseman of all time, everyone goes with Orr. You know what? McInnes is right behind him.
I would agree with that.
Right behind him.
I would agree.
And if not, on the same level.
Because you know what people forget is that McInnes could have a mean streak when he wanted to as well. If he had to get nasty and dirty, he could. Or not dirty, in the dirty areas. I'm not saying playing dirty, but in the dirty areas. Yeah. In the front of the net, he'd clear people out. There was no doubt about it, right?
He aimed at people.
Yeah.
He would aim. No, he said this. I would aim at the guy standing in front of the net. That way, the next time I took a shot, he wouldn't be in front of the net.
That's funny.
All right. So moving on, the best center in St. Louis Blues history.
Oh, you're skipping left wing?
Oh, I did, didn't I? I'm sorry. Left wing. Give me my left wing.
Okay. Now, this is where I faked out earlier. I have Pavel Demitra as my left wing.
Okay. And you're right, because it's difficult because guys do jump from position to position.
Yeah, he did play a little bit of center, but he played center, he played left wing. He's listed more as a left wing than a center.
Okay.
And just like I said, there was for me, even though I never got to watch him play, there was a personal connection for me, and it was in an interview he did. Right? It was after one of his RFA contracts, and he went to arbitration, and he talked about it afterwards, how hurt he was about some of the things that the Blues management said about him. Right? They brought up playoffs, failures, and things like that. And he just said that I didn't want them to think of me that way. I want them to think that I gave my all, and that then when they didn't, it hurt me. That right there tells me everything I need to know, and that puts him in my top of my list. If you want to argue with me, fine, that's great. But just right there, that says everything, and that's what the note means to me.
No, I can't argue with that. Now, I went with Brian Sutter in this spot because, to me, he's just always been one of those guys that epitomizes the St. Louis Blues. And like I said, it was in my era growing up, and it was just, you think Brian Sutter, you think St. Louis Blues. It's, to me, but no, Dimitra's a great spot that's a great choice for that spot, too. Mm-hmm. Now, moving on to the best center in St. Louis Blues history.
This is where I had when we originally talked about this, we had this 5-year rule, and I was like, I don't care, I'm gonna break that rule because this guy only played for 3 years, but he did more in those 3 years than most players did in 10 in their cities. And it's Adam Oates.
I was just gonna say, are you queuing the band up?
Right? It's Adam Oates. He did more in the 3 years he was in St. Louis than most guys did in their entire careers with teams. What he did there, the style of play, he re-triggered the game. He reimagined the game, and then compared with my right winger, they just took it to a level that hadn't been seen in the league. And I'm talking, even Gretzky and his buddies couldn't match this in my eyes. And I'll say this right now, and I honestly believe this: if he does not leave St. Louis, Ovechkin is chasing Hull's numbers and not Gretzky's.
That's interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to tell you something. I was actually shocked that he only played 3 seasons in St. Louis. Because it seemed like he played longer.
Do you know the reason behind that? Okay, so Brett Hull wrote a book called Blue, Hull Shooting and Smiling, and then there was another book of that season called Blues Fire. Adam Oates was referred to by Brett Hull as JBE, Junior Business Executive, right? and he studied on the road. He went to school. He really wanted to be, a business person. Mm-hmm. And he kept looking at the contracts that were coming out. And he would see guys that were doing less than him getting paid more than him. And he kept renegotiating his contract, trying to get better numbers. But the management at the time would bring a guy in and pay him more. So at one point, it just got to the point where the Blues said, no, we're done. We're not going to negotiate anymore. And it created this riff. Both sides were right. Both sides were right here. Mm-hmm. The Blues were right in not negotiating anymore, but Oates was right in saying that some of these guys you're bringing in, you shouldn't be paying more than me. They're not doing what I'm doing. They're not having 100-point seasons. They're never going to have a 100-point season. They're not going to be in the Hall of Fame. I am. Right? And those are the things that hurt him. He stays in St. Louis. Hull hits 1,000 goals.
Wow.
Right? Hull hits 1,000. Think about this. In the 3-season, Hull had 72, 86, and 70. And then he leaves and his numbers drops into the 50s.
Right.
Right? Imagine if he stays. He stays in the 70s. He stays in the 80s.
Potentially.
Right? Or he breaks the 92 record.
I think that could have happened.
Absolutely. I think that he would have been over 900 goals. I really do. If he would have had 3 to 5 more years with Oates, no telling what numbers those two could have put up.
I certainly think that had that happened, he certainly could have broke the single season record for sure. And he probably you're right. I think had they stayed together, we could very well be talking about Brett Hull being the all-time, goal scoring leader for sure. But again, like I said, it blew my mind that Oates was only there 3 seasons. It felt like he was there for 7 or 8.
Yeah, it did, and that's why I had to say, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm equating this 3 to your 5.
It's all good. It's just think of it as dog years, right?
Oh, it's an illegal stick. So
there you go, right?
An illegal stick.
Yeah. We're doing our measurements in dog years. It's all good. Don't worry.
Yeah. This is my illegal stick. This is my illegal stick play.
Yeah, there you go. You go to the box for 2, pal.
I've had 7 of them so far. So,
my center is, of course, Bernie Federko. And I always actually felt bad for Bernie. And I'll tell you why. Because he put up phenomenal numbers as a St. Louis Blue. He had almost 1,100 points. You wouldn't know it, though. Because he got overshadowed a lot in the 80s. Right? If you think about, just the ridiculous pinball machine numbers that were being put up. Federko was always just that consistent leader of the Blues. Always let him in points. But nobody really knew about him outside of, reporters and people who really knew the game. And not only that, he challenged Lanny McDonald for the best mustache in hockey. So that alone right there. Right?
I forget who it was I had on my show. I want to say it was Garth Butcher. But the thing that he told me about Federko was you look at Federko and you would watch the game and say, where was Federko all night? But then you turn around, you look at the scoreboard, and he had 4 assists.
Exactly.
Right? He was sneaky. He was quiet, but he was efficient. He did his job every single night. And I get that. My issue, the reason that I put him as my second center was I couldn't break up my center and right wing, my number 1 center and my number 1 right wing. I just couldn't do it.
All good. Like I said, with those forwards especially, it's really tough because sometimes, they played, and it went by season too. So all good. And I don't even think we need to say the right wing here because there's absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind that it's Brett Hull. And that's why I have Oates, because Hull and Oates, they were the guys. And you talk about Gretzky changing hockey, and he did, right? For me, I equate what Hull and Oates did to what
and I just kind of Bob Gibson did in the Cardinals.
Their music was great.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my laugh cracked in on that
one. You've been waiting all day to do that, haven't you?
I heard it earlier. I was like, yeah, I got to use this.
Here you go. This is for you.
Yeah. He's got a roadcaster over there.
Yes, I do.
And we're doing sounds now.
But what they did, what those two did in St. Louis for hockey, I equate to what Bob Gibson did for baseball. Baseball changed the rules for Bob Gibson.
That's right. That's right.
Hockey changed the rules for Hall and Oates.
They
right?
did.
They took away some of this, the hooking foul. They started calling the hooking. They saw what those two could be, right? And I wish he would have stayed. I wish Oates would have stayed. I know at some point Hull's mouth finally wrote a check he couldn't cash, right? And that's what it was. He finally wrote a check that he couldn't cash, and that's why he left. But it was the best thing for him.
Right.
Two cups later, he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. There was no doubt about that. He did things that just on the ice and off the ice. There's a couple of stories out there, and a couple of them from Detroit, a couple of them from Dallas. I know there's stories from there's one going around the internet right now that I really love. When Mike Keenan was there, Keenan tells Hull to go serve a penalty, and Hull's yelling at him that I don't serve penalties. Everybody's go serve the penalty. Hull slowly skates over, takes a sweet ass time, skates over, is in the box. The penalty ends. He waits in the box for a few seconds. Puck comes to him. It's him and the goalie. And he skates just lazily over to the bench, climbs in and says, I told you I don't serve penalties.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
That's Hull in a nutshell.
Exactly.
Right? And my other story about him comes from Detroit. He's on the line with Pavel Datsuk. It's his job to teach Datsuk, right? He's supposed to teach Datsuk. He's that mentor. And Datsuk doesn't pass him a puck. They go back to the bench, and Hull is just blowing him up. Pass me the damn puck. You need to pass me the puck. Datsuk looks at him, says, you were covered. Hull's response, I've scored 400 goals. I've scored 400 goals covered. Pass me the damn puck. It's just what he was and who he is. And you know what? Dallas, you got him for a couple of years, and he scored the most controversial goal in the NHL, which shouldn't, in hockey history, which actually shouldn't have any controversy on it at all, because the NHL is the one that changed the damn rules for the playoffs.
I know, right?
Right? But none of that matters. None of that matters. The only thing that matters was that he was a Blue, and he did the things he did as a Blue. You ask anybody, they'll barely remember him on Dallas, barely remember him on Detroit.
Yep.
It's what he did in St. Louis.
Absolutely.
Barely remember him in Calgary. Vancouver.
No, it was Calgary, because he came over in the Gilmore trade. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Calgary. Most people don't even realize that he went to Arizona for a short period.
Yeah, he's always going to be remembered as a St. Louis Blue. There's no ifs, ands, ors, or buts about it.
Yeah, and when you think about that, it just takes the game to a new level, right? He saved hockey, and they say it. He saved hockey in St. Louis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why, and it's like Dimitra takes that torch and carries it on. That's why Dimitra's my left wing. Hull passes that torch. McGinnis, Pronger take that torch. So there's that connection, and that's what my list is. It's the torch being passed.
Sure. And you know what? That's a beautiful thing. It really is. So I'll tell you what, we have got our team put together now, the all-time St. Louis Blues team. And this has been so much fun. I love doing these kind of lists. This is great.
Hopefully I wasn't too out in outer space.
Hey, listen, the farther you go in outer space, the more we like it. So it's all good. So what we're going to do, because now you've got me intrigued that you've been changing your mind a little bit on the whole Matt Tkachuk thing, and I want to hear about it. But we're going to need to take a quick commercial break. But before we do that, we got a little segment that I want to carry on in our new rebranding of the show called Breakaway Trivia. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a trivia question, and I'm going to give you time to think about it during the commercial break, and then we'll answer it when we come back. All right?
Sounds great.
All right, so here's the question. What was the first NHL team to play in St. Louis? And bonus points if you can tell me when. The answer when we come back.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mylittlefalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
And we're back. Guy, do you like that music? Because like I said, that music that he's got for that commercial makes me want to run right through a brick wall. Every single time I hear it. He did such a good job with that commercial. Really.
Well,
so
I thought you were going to give me a hard trivia question.
Well, hey, listen, I try not, listen, my dad used to be on the show all the time, and we used to have a blast with it because we used to stump and he used to get so mad. It was awesome. But he plays shuffleboard on Wednesday nights now, and he can't join the show.
Okay, well, the first NHL team to play in St. Louis was the original Ottawa Senators, who moved to St. Louis in, I want to say, 1923 and played in the 23-24 season, changed their name to the St. Louis Eagles, played at the arena. It was its second or third year that the arena had been there. It was called the St. Louis Exhibition Center at that point. Unfortunately, didn't have any, it just never kicked on, and they folded after 1 year.
You're right about everything except the year. It was 34.
34.
But that's
I knew
okay.
It was somewhere in there.
But that's okay. Great answer. Yeah, it was only one season. Apparently, they were having problems with attendance, and I guess, at the time, plane travel, of course, wasn't prevalent.
Yeah,
and
that was the other issue.
Travel became an issue because, even though they had teams in Chicago and Detroit, it was what it was. Yeah. But anyways, I was on your show a couple nights ago, and of course, the rumor mill is flying around now about Matthew Tkachuk leaving the Calgary Flames. He's gone, let's face it. And so...
Yeah, he's not going to play. He won't play Calgary.
No, if he plays there 1 year, it'll be a miracle if they figure out a way to keep him there for 1 year to trade him after that. But anyways, that notwithstanding, all kinds of teams are lining up for his services, and of course, the Blues seem to be the front runners, or at least the favorites, because of the connection with his father, Keith Tkachuk. And the other night, you weren't too happy about it, but you're telling me you've changed your mind a little bit. Tell me why.
Okay, so last night I had a guy on from Locked On Blues podcast, and he said some things that started to shift me a little bit. One of the things that was brought up was that Matt Tkachuk's defense is better than any defenseman we could get on the Blues right now for the money, right? And okay, that makes some sense. My whole thing with Matt Tkachuk, it's not that I don't want Matt Tkachuk on my team. It's the addition by subtraction, the subtraction by addition.
Right?
What you bring in, you take more away to bring in. And look, I am not comparing Garth Butcher to Matt Tkachuk. I'm comparing the style of the trade. The Blues traded away their entire second scoring line to get Garth Butcher. Well, okay, we had no scoring in the second round of the playoff because we didn't have a second scoring line. And Butcher didn't bring a second scoring line. And I love Garth. I had him on my show. Great guy.
Lockdown
but
deep.
it just didn't bring what the team, it was, addition, but you took away too much. My concern is that you're going to take away too much. But if now that the tide has turned a little bit, there is no way Calgary can get what they're asking for.
I don't think so. Unless there are a couple of teams that are really hot and heavy and they just start up in the ante. And I think that's what they're hoping for. But it's like we talked the other night, though. He wants big, big money. It's going to be at least $9 million because that's what his qualifying offer is. And obviously, he's probably going to want more. So who the heck can fit that in?
I think he could sign. I really do think that in St. Louis, he could sign an 8-year deal right around the same $8 million that they're giving, the 8.25 or whatever it is that they're giving Thomas.
You think that
right?
low?
Thomas got 6 years.
Right.
I don't know if he got 8. I don't know if he got the full 8, but maybe a little bit more, but not much more. Because be honest with you, I don't think Armstrong's going to pay it. It's what you're gonna. It's what it is for me is it's what you're gonna lose if you can get away with losing one of your $6.5 million defensemen and maybe Kyrou and a pick. I'm okay with that. Okay. I'm not okay trading Tarasenko to cover that.
Right. Because you got to move somebody out to make the cap room work, right?
Yeah. If you're going to make the cap room work and it's not, and again, you have guys that you can bring. If there are guys in the system that I think could equal Kyrou's production, maybe in the aggregate, with a couple different guys covering up. Like me, I'm not upset Perron left. I think the Leddy trade does help solidify the defense better than most Blues fans do. Mm-hmm. And I saw it. When Leddy came to St. Louis, I was not a fan of that move. I seriously thought the penalty kill was going to get worse. And we had a decent penalty kill. Got better. Wait a minute. How did it get better? You lost Sundqvist, one of the best penalty killers in the league. You lost him. Well, other guys got a chance to prove what they could do on the penalty kill. Buchnevich stepped his game up. Brown stepped his game up. There are guys that step their game up when given an opportunity. Well, I think that Ruby has learned something about taking younger guys and letting them make mistakes and letting them get better, learning from their mistakes and not punishing them every time they make one. And if that's going to happen, I'm okay with this. But again, it's what you have to give up. I don't want to buy the farm. I don't want to give up the future.
Yeah.
To get for this. You know what? And Calgary right now doesn't have any leverage, has none.
Yeah.
And that's what's important here.
The only way they get leverage if it turns into a bidding war. That's the only way they're going to get any kind of leverage at all.
Well, they have none. Because even if it goes to arbitration, he still doesn't have to sign that contract.
Oh, no. What I'm saying is for his rights. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, boy, it's like I told you the other night, though. If I was Matt Tkachuk, I would be looking at like a shorter-term deal and then go for the big money at like 28 or 29.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's like we were talking about it. That cap is going to go up significantly in a few years.
Yeah,
so
we're really going, think it is.
When we're fretting about $9.5 million now, in 3 years that could be your standard middle six pay, right?
Yeah, that could be $12 million. That could be his contract could be 12 or 13.
Right.
I absolutely agree with that. The cap is going to get closer to $100 million.
Right. Exactly.
Right? And the thing here is if you are, and here's the thing for me, if I'm Matt Tkachuk. One of the things that I have to look at is the fact that I just finished a $65 million contract.
I know, right?
Right? I get you got to make your money where you can.
Right.
Matt Tkachuk is always going to make his money in hockey.
Yeah,
he's going to make money in hockey. He's going to make money in hockey. He's going to be a coach. He's going to be a player director. He's going to have something to do in the league after he's done, right? It's not like he's got to make it all now and just sit. Then I got to struggle. Go work at a 9-to-5 job because I don't have any money.
Right.
He's always going to have that money. He's got good work ethic. He just needs to tone down some of the antics, and if you do that, you can take your game all the way to the Hall of Fame. He's got Hall of Fame credentials. His brother has Hall of Fame credentials.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? He's like a modern day Claude Lemieux.
Right? Yeah.
So I always thought of.
He's had NHL coaches from the time he picked up a stick.
Sure. Absolutely.
He's had NHL level coaches. He's had McGinnis as a coach. He's had Pronger as a coach. He's had his dad as a coach, and so many others. So he's got this understanding of the game that, great. But again, it's all about what you have to give up. And if the price drops, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? I mean, if you got a chance to get a talent like that, so long as it's not going to completely destroy your future, you got to go for it. But let me ask you this: if he doesn't end up in St. Louis, where do you think he's going to go?
I think that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
The $9 million question. and the reason being is it's straight up. Maybe a team that knows that he's a rental thinks that they can get him and bring him in and say, I know you said you don't want to play here, but maybe we can make it good for you that you do want to play here.
Yeah.
That we can offer you that we can bring you in with guys, with friends and things like that. Maybe a team that's got, a strong USA player base.
I'll tell you, you know what? I saw this earlier today, and it makes all the sense in the world. A team to watch out for, Dave's Buffalo Sabres.
They got
the cap space to make it work. They got prospects to send.
My issue there is their ownership.
I know, but you know what? It's like we were talking the other night. I think their ownership is starting to learn to kind of, okay, we're going to just kind of butt out of this and let our hockey people handle it. And if that's the case, that could be a strong fit there too. It's going to be really interesting to see, number one, what Calgary actually gets in return. And two, who can make it work. That's, of course, I mean, and if you follow Twitter a lot, I mean, it's already signed, sealed, and delivered Sunday. He's going to New Jersey, which I don't necessarily think they need him insofar as they got a young enough core up front. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Who wouldn't want Matt? I mean, don't get me wrong there. But they're not a team that, let's put it this way, they don't need him to get over the top.
No.
Because they're not there yet.
Yeah.
Neither is Buffalo, but Buffalo can be a much more of like a
Buffalo needs him to take the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right? Absolutely. Exactly.
And that's the thing with Brady is, does he want to take what in his eyes is the next step? And that's the question here, right? Because in his eyes, if the next step is the cup, right, there's only one team that's really out there that's going to give him that opportunity.
Yeah.
And of all the teams that have been mentioned, I think that's St. Louis, right? But if he's willing to build a team, then yeah, Buffalo comes in, Ottawa comes in. But Ottawa, I don't think Brady I don't think those two would play well together.
It'd be interesting. It'd be a reality show.
I've seen them practice together well, and I know they hang out and all that. But at some point, I just think that it could be a bit of a distraction.
No, I think, you know what, it would be awesome if he was in Buffalo and those two got to like hammer it out in a divisional playoff series. That would be awesome.
It would.
That would be great.
It would. Here's the question mark that I have on everybody that's just got to make me. I know the C to some people doesn't mean a damn thing, but in the NHL, the C means something. I remember, and this was probably 20 years ago, ESPN, or not, Sports Illustrated did an article on the C's in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And how, they're the only one that puts a letter on the jersey. All the other sports, they have captains, but no one knows who they are. They don't have it's ceremonial, more or less, right? It has no meaning to it.
Right.
In the NHL, that C has meaning. It has a lot of meaning. And it's it's important. This is the guy that can talk to the umpires or the referees. This is the guy that helps with the lineup. There's a lot of things that the captain does, right? It's important. It's extremely important in the NHL. Okay, who's Calgary's captain?
Yeah.
I think this is important. Calgary never named a captain.
Not after Giordano.
They have
no.
A's. They have no captain.
Correct.
And if Tkachuk meant that much to them, if Tkachuk was that guy,
Yep.
even with Gaudreau there, if Tkachuk was that guy, why isn't he wearing a C? And that's a question I have. And I think it's a legitimate question.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. No doubt about it.
And that's the thing that, the locker room, what kind of locker room could absorb a talent and an ego like that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it.
He's got to, if Matt Tkachuk really wants to be that guy in the league, as much as St. Louis is the right place for him. Right? But at the same time, he's got to really understand that if you want this, you've got to make some sacrifices too. And one of your sacrifices might be a shorter contract for less money to get you to that level that you can be where you want to be.
Very interesting. Very interesting. That's
no agent would ever tell him that unless they were a really smart, forward-thinking agent.
That's a great point. That really is. Well, they got to August 11th. Is that when they're having the hearing for his arbitration?
It's August 11th now, and I think that he'll get traded before that date.
I think so too.
But at the same time, it's Calgary's decision, and Calgary. If I'm Calgary, okay, you know what? He's not on my cap. He doesn't take the contract. What does it hurt me? What does it hurt me? I wanted this. I'm not going to get it. What I'm going to get ain't worth. I think Calgary has some power where they can just say, you know what? Don't sign.
Right.
You don't hurt us.
Right.
You don't go against our cap.
And they still got his rights.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
Calgary does have the right to hold out, and that's why I think, and that's the other thing that I've had Tony Twist on my show, and Twist told me that he doesn't watch modern day hockey, and I asked him why. He says because too many players worry about the name on the back instead of the name on the front. Right, and that unfortunately is what's happening here. Is it sounding like Tkachuk's more worried about the name on the back than the name on the front?
Yeah, that's
and that can put people off. That can, and again, who would have thought Gaudreau ends up in Columbus?
Well, there you go, and that's what I mean about a team coming out of the weeds. Say like a Buffalo Sabres that entered the conversation.
Columbus wasn't as much out of the weeds as everybody thinks it is. It was really the only team he was negotiating with. It's just they kept it really quiet.
Right.
They kept it quiet. To me, the shocker of free agency, and I love it, is Kadri.
I know. Well, he wants to go back to Colorado in the worst way. They just can't make it work money-wise right now.
No, they don't want. I don't think Colorado wants him.
Not at the kind of money that he wants. No way.
Yeah, well, I don't think they want him. Period. If they wanted him, it's gone. It's gone what? Almost a week now. Right? Over a week. And he hasn't signed. Remember in 2021, 2021, Matt Hoffman's going to get $6 million. Matt Hoffman's going to get $7 million for all these years. No one wanted it. He ends up signing with the Blues for $4 million for a 1-year deal. Right? Kadri may have to do something like that because I'll be honest, teams know he is what he is, and they're not looking at that 80-point season thinking they're going to get that again.
No, well, especially now, what is he, 31, 32 years old?
Yeah.
So you can't really necessarily give him a lot of term. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But
I can't stand the guy. I think he's one of the worst things that ever happened to hockey.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was on your show, you were not thrilled with him at all. And we won't go there again because again I don't want to get your blood pressure up. Not this early in the morning for you. So
no problem, bud.
Well, Guy, this has been an awesome time, man. Tell us a little bit about your show.
Okay, my show is the Blue Note Fan Report. If I got a couple of minutes, are you
absolutely
good?
Go ahead.
I know we're running way long. I don't know how long your podcast normally goes, but it actually started after I had a mental breakdown. Right in 2018, kind of my PTSD and some other things set in, and I lost it. And in late 2018, I started doing some updates about my treatment in a veterans group, and it translated into me. You know what? Why don't I just do some rants about the Blues live and see what happens? And it morphed into this type of show, and my show's changed. It went from a studio type show like what we're doing now, recorded. I would do skits and things like that. But where now I do a very live show almost nightly, and I cover as any and all topics, and I let the fans have as much of a say in it as anything else. It's important that fans get their say because they don't. And you get all this stuff on YouTube or on Facebook and the groups and all that stuff. And the fan really doesn't get to state what they want to say. And I try and give the fan that opportunity to talk, to see what's up. And I want to say this, I have some very intelligent listeners, right? Even when I bring fans in from other teams, they will ask them questions about those teams. I get guys that come from all around, and they really want to know. They want to learn. They want to understand what's going on in the game. And I always say, never look at the surface. What you see on the surface is never what's going on. It's always what's under the surface that counts. It's undercurrent of the game that everybody misses that's so important. And that's what I try and do. I try and impart the undercurrent. On the surface, Matt Tkachuk, the greatest player that the Blues could get right now. Okay, under the surface, got to give up to get him. Right. Think about that. Right. What are you losing to get him? There's so much more there. Okay, now you're making your offense this much better, but how much worse are you making your defense?
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. What are you losing? What are you losing in your neutral zone game, which is one of the Blues' worst aspects? By bringing him in, what are you going to take away from the neutral zone game? Right? That's your aspect that you need to fix the most to get to that next level. Right? Your locker room. How solid is your locker room right now? What is this going to do to your locker room? So there's a bunch of things that come around in that aspect that make me think that I try and bring to my show. It's on YouTube, it's on Twitter, and Facebook. Facebook, it's either on my page, Guy Bensing, or it's on the Blue Note Fan Report. That has its own page, or in my group, the Hawaii STL Blues Fan Clan. I gotta make sure I say that with a C. And then on Twitter, I have a couple of different accounts. I have at HISTL Blues Fan, at STL Fan Report, and at Blue Note Report.
That is awesome.
I put it on there. I put it out in many places as I can. And then I'm trying to be a writer. I just right now got some things going on that have stopped me from writing regularly, but I write on my fan report. I write for Inside the Rink, and I did do some writing for Full Press.
Very cool, man. Very cool. And yeah, that's what I like about your show too is that you have guests from like other teams on, so you're not in a constant Blues echo chamber. You get the different perspectives and different opinions, which is really cool. And again, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. We really appreciate it, and you've got to come back on again sometime. This is too much fun.
Anytime, Scott. Anytime. I tell my fans this: if you only watch the Blues, you're missing so much. You got to know what the other teams are doing and how they play to understand how your team is playing against them.
Absolutely, and it breaks up the monotony sometimes too.
Say again?
It breaks up the monotony sometimes too.
Oh no, it does. It opens up. It opens up your eyes to a much different perspective. It's the difference of sitting in behind the Blues bench, sitting in the rafters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because the guys in the rafters, everyone thinks, oh, they can't afford those. They can't afford down here. No, they're sitting up there because it gives them a wider view of the spectrum. They see plays happen. They see things happen. I remember I was at a game a couple of years ago. I was with my niece. I have this beautiful little niece. She's I think she's 5 or 6 now. She has Down. She's been diagnosed with Down syndrome. Hockey is her thing, right? She will sit and watch the game, either on TV or she'll scream "Let's Go Blues," and she's following it. She's sitting in my lap, and we're watching a play. We're playing the Sharks, and I see them enter the neutral zone. And as soon as they enter the neutral zone, I said it loud, they're going to score here. They turned around and scored. You should have seen like 25 heads snap and look at me. Like, how did you know that? This is what I saw. This is, right. Look at this, look at this, look at that. They're the things that I saw in the game. And, people around me are just like astounded that I knew that was going to happen. Right? It's that style of game that I like to see. I look for the under the surface.
Well, and that's where actually going to games really helps too, because you get to see the whole play develop as opposed to just only watching on TV. So that's a huge thing. But again, man, this has been so much fun. I totally appreciate you coming on, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Hey, anytime, Scott. All you got to do is call and ask, man, and I'm there for you.
All right, brother. Well, hey, thanks again, and I'll be talking to you soon. So we'll get together again.
Oh, no problem, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. And by the way, you got to know that I'm bleeding blue with you.
Thanks, guy. Appreciate it. Oh, well, that's all we got this week for Marty's Illegal Stick, a hockey history podcast. Next week, we have got the author of Klondikers. It was an amazing story about a 1905 hockey team that traveled all the way from the Yukon to Ottawa to challenge for the Stanley Cup. His name is Tim Falconer. It's going to be a very interesting talk, to say the least. All right, so just so you know, you can find us on Marty'sLegalStick.com. You can find us at the SportsHistoryNetwork.com. You can find us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and we're also at My Little Falls Facebook page, I believe, as well. All right, anyways, for Dave the Save Warner, I'm Scott Kimball. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week on Marty's Illegal Stick, a hockey history podcast.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.